Welcome back to the Paranormal State, Washington, and UFO UAP. With Makāula Nakae, a lifelong experiencer and ET contactee since 1990. Today's episode, 1946, Origin of the Space Nordic Archetype. The Gösta Carlsson encounter on May 18, 1946, in the coastal pine forests of Kronoskogen, locally known as Skogen, or the Siberian Forest, near the coastal town of Ängelholm, Sweden, stands as a foundational milestone in European ufology. Long before George Adamski popularized the contactee movement in the California deserts in 1952, Carlsson's account established the complete aesthetic, technological, and behavioral blueprint for the space Nordic phenomenon. On the night of May 18, 1946, 28-year-old Gösta Carlsson, a railway worker, amateur athlete, and local entrepreneur, was returning from Skaldurviken Beach after checking on his properties and business interests. Moving through the dense pine canopy, his attention was caught by rhythmic, pulsing flashes of colored light. Believing initially that a traveling carnival, an illegal gathering, or a local military exercise was underway, he extinguished his cigarette, left the path, and crept toward the illumination. Emerging into a secluded clearing, he discovered a structured, self-illuminated flying machine. Returning at dawn, Carlsson documented tangible trace evidence that anchored the event in physical reality. Distinct geometric indentations in the soil, matching the craft's retractable telescopic landing struts, which sank slightly into the forest floor and formed a precise footprint. Patches of burnt and crushed grass surrounding the perimeter of the landing zone. Small metallic and crystalline objects, including an engraved quartz-like rod marked with runic or geometric symbols, alongside small cups containing a fragrant yellowish liquid. Carlsson's description broke sharply from Pulp Fiction tropes of monsters or mechanical automatons, introducing beings of striking physical perfection. Tall, athletic figures with pale skin and radiant, long blonde hair resembling idealized Scandinavian features. 6 occupants were observed. 3 men working near illuminated oval cabin windows and 3 women standing near the landing gear. Tight-fitting, seamless white one-piece flight suits, molded to their bodies without bulky zippers or seams, complete with dark boots, utilitarian utility belts, and specialized headgear fitted with earplug-like communication nodes or transparent hoods over their necks. Controlled, highly organized, and non-hostile. When Carlsson attempted to creep closer for a better view, a female occupant turned toward him and raised a small, chest-mounted metallic device resembling a box camera or portable projector. This projected a non-lethal, localized wave of static electricity and pressure that pushed him backward into the brush without causing physical injury. After completing their tasks, the crew smoothly reboarded through a concealed portal. The craft lifted off vertically on its landing struts, producing a low, humming drone resembling a large vacuum cleaner, mixed with an electromagnetic thrum. Enveloped in a pulsing, synchronized aura of deep red and purple light, it hovered momentarily at treetop height before executing an instantaneous, silent vertical acceleration, shooting upward at incredible speed until it vanished into the overcast night sky. The most historically consequential aspect of the encounter unfolded long after the craft departed, operating through hypnagogic and oniric telepathic downloads. Lacking any prior background in chemistry, medicine, or botany, Carlsson began experiencing recurring, hyper-vivid dream states and meditative visions. During these episodes, complex biochemical processes were transmitted directly to his subconscious. The core technological hurdle he was shown how to solve involved pollen grain utilization. Naturally, pollen is protected by an extraordinarily resilient, chemically inert outer shell called the exine, which resists digestive acids and enzymatic breakdown, rendering raw pollen difficult to absorb and a frequent trigger for allergies. The visions provided the conceptual blueprints for breaking down the exine shell to extract bioactive, nutrient-dense cytoplasm without destroying its therapeutic properties. Translating these nocturnal visions into reality, Carlsson transitioned from railway work to industrial entrepreneurship, founding AB Cernelle in Ängelholm alongside sister companies like Allergan. The company pioneered standardized pollen extracts, Cernelle for urological health, treating chronic prostatitis and benign prostatic hyperplasia and immunological support. Turning Carlsson into the multimillionaire Palenkajan the Pollen King, and founder of ice hockey club Rugby. Carlsson kept his experience private for 25 years before going public in a 1971 interview with Allers magazine. To permanently enshrine the event, he personally funded and erected a massive 3-ton, 1/8-scale concrete monument of the flying saucer in the Kronoskogen clearing, preserving the exact geometry of the original landing marks. The evolution and metamorphosis of the space Nordic archetype. The emergence of the Nordic alien represents a profound psychosocial adaptation in the wake of World War II. While space Nordics in early contactee lore, and those appearing alongside greys and mantis beings in modern abduction narratives share the same baseline aesthetic, they functionally and narratively represent two entirely different entities. Tracing this evolution reveals how ufology's narrative machinery shifted over the decades. Europe was freshly emerging from a decade of aggressive Third Reich state propaganda that weaponized tall stature, pale skin, and blonde hair as markers of militant domination, genetic purity, and earthly conquest. By describing golden-haired humanoids stepping out of an advanced craft just 1 year after the fall of Berlin, witnesses like Gösta Carlsson in Sweden, 1946, and later George Adamski in California, 1952, inverted this terror. The entities bore no national flags, spoke no human language of dominance, and displayed zero territorial aggression. Their physical traits were stripped of geopolitical context and elevated into a biological universal aesthetic, transforming the terrifying face of totalitarianism into a serene, post-industrial vision of cosmic guardianship. Unlike the clinical, abductive greys of later decades, Carlsson's Nordics established a template of sovereign boundaries and benevolence. They utilized non-lethal defensive force fields rather than predatory violence, and left behind a practical gift for advancing human health and longevity rather than terror. Tall, flawlessly athletic, with luminous skin, striking blonde hair, and serene, human-like features, they wore seamless white flight suits or tunics. They came as peaceful ambassadors, ecologists, and guardians warning humanity against the dangers of nuclear proliferation. They did not abduct. They operated as solitary actors or small, organized crews, inviting willing witnesses for philosophical chats about cosmic harmony, completely isolated from any ecosystem containing greys or mantis beings. By the late 1970s and 1980s, through cases popularized by researchers like Bud Hopkins, David Jacobs, and Whitley Strieber, the friendly contactee movement was largely overshadowed by the terrifying clinical reality of the abductee narrative. The dominant entities became the short, black-eyed greys acting as medical technicians or drone workers, and the towering insectoid mantis beings acting as the clinical directors or overseers of hybridization programs. In these harrowing, underground laboratory scenarios, the tall blonde beings didn't disappear. Instead, they were promoted to management. When experiences in the 1980s and 90s reported seeing tall blonde Nordics standing inside underground craft alongside greys, their behavior had radically changed from the 1950s. They now appeared as supervisors or commanders, standing silently in the background while greys performed invasive procedures, occasionally communicating telepathically to calm the frightened human subject. This jarring behavioral shift caused researchers and skeptics to split into different interpretive camps. Some believe the Nordics of the 1950s and the Nordics of the abduction era are entirely different entities, or perhaps a physical manifestation generated by non-human intelligence or human intelligence agencies to trick witnesses into trusting them. After all, a tall, beautiful human-looking being is much easier to psychologically digest than a gray, gelatinous insectoid. Within advanced contact lore, some experiences suggest that Nordics aren't aliens from a distant star system at all, but rather future human hybrids are higher-dimensional manifestations acting as a long-term genetic bridge between species alongside synthetic worker caste greys. What elevates foundational encounters like Ängelholm is the synthesis of rigorous mechanical realism with ancient visionary transmission. Witnesses applied precise engineering vocabulary to the anomaly, noting a uniform hull completely devoid of visible seams, welds, or rivets, a heavy ozone odor signaling intense high-voltage ionization, and a dual-stage liftoff combining a vacuum motor acoustic drone with an electromagnetic thrum. utilizing witnesses as unwitting biological proxies to transmit complex pharmacopoeia mirrors ancient shamanic and initiatory traditions, such as Amazonian ayahuasqueros learning plant-combining matrices directly from master spirits during altered states of consciousness, translating an ancient paradigm into a mid-negative 20th century industrial context. Ultimately, the confusion stems entirely from aesthetics. Because they look like us, sharing our hair color, height, and physical structure, our brains naturally categorize them as human, like, and assume moral alignment. But the Nordic who met Gösta Carlsson in a quiet Swedish pine forest in 1946 to hand down the secrets of botanical extraction belongs to a very different narrative era than the Stoic bleach blonde overseer standing in a sterile humming room next to a mantis being. Whether they are benevolent brothers from the stars, interdimensional shapeshifters, or psychological projections of our own collective anxiety, the Nordic alien remains UFO history's most effective chameleon, shifting seamlessly from 1950s prophet of peace to 1980s cosmic bureaucrat. To be continued. Watch and listen. Watch the cinematic video trailer. Listen to the full podcast now. Explore the Archive Cosmic Awakening Volume 1, 1991, Peru, Journey into the Unknown. Sacred Valley of the Incas. Volume 2, Ascension 2012, The Golden Alchemy. Part 3, The First Contact and the Paranormal State. Join the journey. New episodes drop periodically. Each chapter delivers a tight, hyper-focused 10 to 30-minute exploration into the evolution of ufology, perfect for your daily plunge into decoding hidden messages from outer space, designed to raise awareness and foster human evolution. Subscribe to support your inner development. Thumbs up to help push our channel through the algorithm. Comment below. Share your thoughts on today's episode.